Hi, here's LG. Sorry we're
Hey.
a little bit late, but
It's
Yo,
okay.
LG, where you at, LG?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're in between going every news station and also talking to the Senate today. How's it going?
Yes, my old buddies. It's good, you know. We're still looking at a similar trend, and the curve has stayed pretty flat. So I'm pleased with that. I have worries every day, a little different worry. Today's worry is Maui, but overall in the islands, we still have exceptional capacity to take care of people if they're sick. So we can deliver the care, and we have not seen a large surge yet, so it's good.
Yeah, so bring us up to speed to Maui. I heard there's like 15 new cases, but I also read that it's a possible 300 to 500 people that they were in contact with, and that's related to what you were talking about, how we need more tests, specifically tests for people who, you know, confirmed cases have been in contact with, and you've been battling the DOH about that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so just to give some clarity, we have 6 new cases, 6 that are on Maui, but in the last like 2 or 3 days, it's a cluster of 15.
I see.
All more or less in the same ward or the same area where they take care of some of the cancer care. And it's a concern because if you wait to test people that are, you know, until they're symptomatic, you're going to miss a lot of people, or you're going to miss a lot of time that they were potentially sick and spreading it. And for healthcare workers, like you say, that were, say, in touch with 300 to 500 people, you just can't take that risk. And it's very difficult to then go and trace all those 300 to 500 people, find out where they are, find out they got symptoms, test them later. It's not the way to go. Just as soon as you know there's a positive case, test their 6 or 8 close contacts, get it done.
Well, you know, this Bruce Anderson from the Department of Health was saying that the tests the availability is the reason why that, you know, we got to save them, and that therefore don't test asymptomatic people. But that's not true, is it? I mean, or can you speak to that?
We have the capacity to test 1,500 locally here every day. We don't reach that capacity. And by the way, we could still send some extra tests out. So if you look at, say, Singapore and South Korea and Taiwan, and they got to a place where they were able to flatten the curve and actually end the crisis, that's what you have to do.
How much testing did Singapore have? Because that's the model.
Well, Singapore and South Korea is testing like 100,000 people a day. They set up very quick spots where they have one of their military health personnel do a quick swab. That's it.
Wow.
In PPE behind a little shelter or a screen, you know, a plastic separator, and answer a couple quick questions real fast, do a swab, test it. So every country has their own approach, and every state has their own approach. But I'm not saying test everybody. Actually, I'm saying test the intimate contacts of people. You know, just test the intimate contacts. That's how you really tell people you're positive or you're negative. People are positive, they know. No matter whatever their job is, stay at home and be ready to, in case you get sick, or to go into the hospital. That's very, very important. Most people are going to be okay, but it's people's expectations that change when they are tested positive or negative. And it changes their psychology to one of a serious response, rather than, I'm probably okay, maybe it's time to go surfing, or I'm probably okay, I'm not going to worry about spending time having dinner with my kupuna. You can't do that if you're sick. So the testing is relevant, it's valuable, and I'm not recommending taking away any tests from people in the hospital or in the intensive care unit. If we get too short any given day, we can wait. But we've never, to my knowledge, exceeded our capacity, not even one day for these 6 weeks. So
Lieutenant Governor, I mean, what is the end game in all of this, right? I mean, every day a certain amount of people are getting tested. We're flattening the curve. We're staying home to the end of April. Yep. Like, when are we going to be able to go back to normal life? Like, hit the clubs, hit the bars, have dinner, dine in. Like
statistically, what numbers are you looking for to feel safe to be okay to open up again?
So that's a great question, actually. So what's happening right now is, because we're doing a good job, we're keeping the curve pretty flat. So no one's dying, or very, very few people are dying. Not a big surge where a lot of people die suddenly. What that means also is it's going to spread it out. But that doesn't mean spread it out and have to stay at home. That means that we will slowly take the lid off. First, be mindful of not going out if we're sick, not going out if we have any symptoms, getting tested right away. But it will be far less disease. And then we let tourists start coming in. My expectation is we're going to test tourists for the antibodies, so we know, have they had the disease or not? And if they have not had the disease, we just quickly test them with a either we get a certificate from them or we test them on the rapid test, so we know, hey, this person that's going to come and spend 10 days in Hawaii is clean, A-okay.
If you had to put like a date on the calendar, we should be back to normal life by blank. What date is that?
Totally normal, like we don't change our behavior at all. We don't worry about this. No worries at all. September 1st, like no worries at all. I would hope that we could get there. But before that, we'll get to more normal each month, right? We hopefully in May and June, we won't have to be locked in at all. And hopefully, you know, maybe late May, early June, we start seeing a lot more safe people coming on vacation because they're confirmed negative. And then we ramp it up and more hotels open. Meanwhile, restaurants will be open to us. They'll be very eager for our locals to go and have dinner. So we'll do that. The volume will be lower at first, so we'll be able to have like every other table so we can spread out a little bit. That will become the new normal through the late spring and early summer. And then with each month, we'll see more people come as long as we can confirm that they're negative. The reason that's important is because we're doing a very good job keeping the curve down, a lot of our people will not be immune. Now, once we get the vaccination, we're gold. That's key. When the vaccination comes, and we don't know when that is, I'm hoping for this fall, but that's a real aggressive prediction. Keep the disease very flat. Don't see a large number of our citizens get sick or die. Gradually become no more normal, going back out to restaurants or bars or whatever we like to do. And then you're integrating tourism again, but safely, because we can't have all of a sudden the 30,000 tourists spreading disease back here where we're not protected. We will immediately go up with a large resurgence of the disease. So we can't have that.
Yeah, you were talking about the antibodies. Can you speak a little bit about like how what is the process of taking people who've already been infected and are producing the antibodies? Like, what is the process to create some sort of medicine out of that?
Well, people are doing that right now. All across the country, they're creating vaccinations and they're working like mad to get that done fast. The first thing is getting a good test. And the tests are actually already up and operational, and they're testing which one's better than the other. The doctor or nurse puts that onto the little cardboard thing, and we can see whether you had IgG or IgM. IgM antibodies go first. After 7 days, they go up. And then after about 2 weeks, the IgM antibodies go up. And that shows that you've already had the disease and you're immune. And they're cleared. They can come and have vacation. There's no risk of spreading or catching anything.
Now, does that include I heard there are like 8 different strains. Is that the same thing? Does it matter?
Yeah.
They work for all strains?
The strains for all of them should be captured by those antibodies. The antibodies themselves, I believe, should encompass all of them. And we're going to still learn more about COVID-19 for sure, because we're really just like 3.5 months into this disease, and the whole world's studying it in the science field.
What's up with the masks? I mean, one day we say wear masks. This morning I wake up, World Health Organization, don't wear masks. Like, what is going on? And why are they confusing everybody?
Well, I'll just say this. Any coverage you have outside is better than no coverage. And if you're going to be in close proximity, have a mask. The only masks that protect you completely are the N95 masks. Those are meant for hospital wear. But you will get some extra protection if you have cover, if you have to go to Safeway or Costco or wherever. So that's kind of important, because all that's doing is it's saying flatten the curve. Again, keep minimal spread from occurring, because you could be at home and in home quarantine, but when you go to get food, you get that unlucky moment if you don't have a mask and somebody else comes and gives you a big hug and maybe they're sick or positive. You don't want that.
But why does there seem to be such confusion? I mean, you're both, what we love talking to you is you're both a doctor and a politician. So we're trying to as the regular, just civilian, trying to process all this information. We're like, first the CDC says no mask, and they say then mask. And then, Kirk Caldwell, he's out there doing the Wyman Olive production. You were one of the few people to say on Instagram and FB, hey, that's dangerous. It's a bad mistake. Like, how are we supposed to process and sift through who's telling the truth and who's not?
Yeah, look, all I can say is I will be as steady as humanly possible with the data. I know the medicine of this, and I know what we should do, which is flatten the curve by decreasing contact, staying home, setting up, going over to what you call it? Sherwood's, in Wyman. That was truly stupid, and that flew in the face of all of the social distancing, staying at home, only doing essential projects. I mean, that is dangerous for the purposes of the workers, for the Hawaiian community, which we should have respect for, because as we know, the protectors are going to come out. They did before. If you learn anything, learn from that example. And then the police have to respond. And it's not fair to put protectors and the police together. So that was a mistake. But the most important thing is you look at the overall risk that you take on as a person. If you're home and quiet and with just your family who's well, you have no risk at home.
Right.
If you go out and spend several hours out in, less than 6 feet proximity to somebody, you're going to have increasingly some risk of catching the disease. So the idea of a quarantine or a home isolation is to not come up with a bunch of excuses to go out. And that's just not what you should do. So you asked about the CDC and WHO. What's really happening is this is new. It started all with the name, a novel coronavirus, new. It's new to all these guys. And some of them have been very severe and some of them have not been severe, but we're seeing the patterns as they go through other countries. And as they saw it was more severe, people made more strong recommendations about wearing masks, about testing, about quarantine. So it's happening in real time. The best thing people can do is keep it simple, home quarantine, keep 6 feet distance. You'll be okay.
Yeah, because in the live conference yesterday, Mayor Caldwell was talking about how Hawaii we're pretty high up there as far as testing is concerned, right? We've done a lot of the testing, but it's still it's like 1% of our population, and then
right.
Moody Analytics says on the opposite side of the spectrum that we're going to suffer the most economic damage because of our tourism dependency. How do I make sense of those? We got the mayor bragging about our testing, but we got this tourism economic damage by Moody Analytics. What are we supposed to feel? How are we supposed to expect? How are we going to really do with this tourist being let in every day? And we had the 4th increase in tourists showing up on the island on Monday in a row. So what's really going to be the deal?
Yeah. The real deal is that the number of tourists is very low right now. I'm not saying it's a good idea to have any. I think we should have none, but it's a very small number. And they're not symptomatic and they're going into home isolation. So if they cheat, they cheat, and that's not cool, okay? We will bust them and fine them $5,000.
Right.
What you can say is that we're committed to the April 30 deadline anyway, and no matter what, the whole country is going to suffer economic decline for a time because nobody's traveling between state lines. They're not opening their restaurants widely. Very, very little activities going on. So even if we decided, hey, you know what, we're going to just take it on the chin and open the state up and let people die, which we should never do, no one would come anyway because so few people could come. Even if it was more than 200 or 300, they wouldn't justify hotels and planes. So the truth is get through April 30th with a very, very low number of contacts and cases, and then it will be much easier to take our foot off the gas.
Sam,
that.
You want to ask Haruki's question? Because I think it's a great question.
Oh yeah. Hey, son, come on. My 10-year-old had a question for you because he knew I was going to talk to you with Ryan and Becky on Zoom, and so he asked a great question, and I actually had the same question. Come over here.
Yeah.
This is my youngest son Haruki, and go ahead, ask. This is Lieutenant Josh Green. That's Becky.
Hey,
say hi. Okay, go ask him a question. Go ahead. Your question.
How come we can go on the water but not on the sand?
How come we go on the water but not on the sand?
That's a really good question. Great question. Well, going on the water is pretty safe because the virus doesn't survive in the ocean. So that's a great question. And also, we're pretty well separated when we're in the water. When people are on the beach, then people, especially older people, try to hang out and drink beer and stay too close to each other. And so sand attracts beer, and that is a problem for spreading the disease.
That is my favorite answer out of all your interviews so far, Dr. Josh Green. That is amazing. Becky, did you had a question? I know you've been hogging the conversation, but you want to still.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, you're a doctor, you're a politician, but you're also a dad and you have children, right? You have 2 kids. So how are you kind of talking to your kids about what's going on and what are you telling them? What are you doing with them at home in this situation?
That's a great question. So Maya is 13, Sam is 10. What I'm basically sharing with them is that the best things to do are to be safe at home. And they're doing their homework and they're doing their schoolwork and classes online right now. One of them's in a charter school, one's at Iolani, and they're doing great. We're playing a lot of cards, and we fight a little. They fight a lot. I bought an exercise bike. My daughter's a dancer, so she's doing dance classes with her school. And Sam and I go out for long walks, and we try to swim every day when we can, and try to cook together. So we're doing regular dad and stuff and good stuff. And Jamie's our rock. She's teaching them and trying to keep it real and normal. So that's what we should do with our kids. Just love them. And thank goodness, I will say this, that children are not significantly affected by this virus. Otherwise, I'll tell you, the whole country would have been in a complete panic if children were dying from this disease. It is devastating to lose a young one. So I'm sharing the reality with them. They know a lot of healthcare because I teach them a lot of medicine as a doc. And we don't really talk too much about the politics because that just makes me mad. And then they see me being mad, and it's better to keep it positive.
Yeah, don't bring politics home. That's the best advice.
Sound like
don't
Sam.
do it.
That's right.
Lieutenant Governor, we were talking about this on air a couple days ago. Like Ryan was saying, after this whole thing, he thinks he probably will never shake hands again. Like
from now on.
In this post-coronavirus world, I feel like there's going to be some permanent changes. Like when you greet people, handshakes, fist bumps, elbows, kiss on the cheek. Like, should we even do that in September when things go back to normal?
Once they go back to normal, we should come back to normal. But you're right. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. I think 30 or 40% of the population is going to be traumatized by having to have gone through a home quarantine, had a very significant economic devastation put upon them because of decisions that I guess had to be made to prevent death. It's going to be very difficult for people. So some people will bounce back really quickly. I've noticed that. But this particular one's going to have a much larger number of people that really have a hard time. I think there's going to be some significant depression. We are seeing, unfortunately, some extra domestic violence at home because it's tense and people having tensions over economics. People worry about money and they're in close quarters a lot of the time. Some people are losing loved ones. So all that is going to factor into it. But I'll tell you, after a couple of years, people will never remember this, or they'll remember very little. Yeah,
wow.
It's amazing. I've seen it before. After 9/11, it was unbelievable, and people got back to normal, except for New York. Okay, they did state change forever, and after SARS and MERS, which were diseases, even those countries that got hit hard got back to normal. So it's kind of amazing what people respond to and how they bounce.
I saw this article speaking of that some people are mystified about some of the COVID cases, and that it's not all pneumonia. And then some people saying that some people are like diagnosing it wrong, and there's some other stuff going. Can you speak a little bit just medically? I'm just reading articles.
No, it's good. It's great actually. I'm reading the same articles and watching the same data. So what we're seeing is when you have a virus, viruses can cause damage to multi-systems, right? So the main scenario is a virus gets into the body starts fighting it, and it gives off chemicals, and that's called pyrogens. That's why you get fever. Most people get fever, and that's a real normal response, and that's no big deal, right? Mm-hmm. That's the early phase, and people will feel aches because those chemicals cause aches in the body, and your body's clearing them out. Then for those who get more sick, it gets into the lungs and it starts damaging the lung tissue. And if it damages the lung tissue let's say the first person, then they start getting fluid in their lungs or pneumonia, and they can get much sicker and die. Other people get over that, but the virus itself causes inflammation somewhere else and infection somewhere else, and that could be in the heart. So some people get over the lung problem and then end up with a cardiomyopathy or infection of the heart. It's called endocarditis. Itis meaning infection, and that can cause terrible outcomes and make a person so sick that they die. So you just never know which organ it goes to. Each and every strain is a little different, and each and every body is a little different. It depends how your body responds to it, but it is mostly the inflammatory effects of the virus and in what tissues that it settles in your body. And what you really don't want is it to get into your brain or your heart, and then your lungs either. Those things, that's the core, you're fine.
The malaria drug, what's your thoughts on those?
It's not clear yet which evidence is working. which disease states are responding to which drugs. Hydroxychloroquine is normally a medicine. One of the derivatives of that is just chloroquine, which is for malaria, okay?
Right.
And the hydroxychloroquine, which has a hydroxy bond on it, so it's another slight biochemical variant. See? Not all your LGs know this shit, okay? So, you know. All right. So the hydroxychloroquine with that extra bond is an immune mediator. So what it's usually used for is when people have lupus, which my grandmother had, for instance, which is an immune disorder.
My mom had that.
And it suppresses the immune system. Yeah. See, so, and when people have that immune reaction, the blood vessels get inflamed, and that's why people get kidney disease or skin disease and so on.
Right.
So they're hopeful. And I think Daniel, what was his name? Daniel Kim? Yeah, Daniel Day Kim, one of our stars here, you know, he took the hydroxychloroquine and he got better. And so maybe it worked. Usually you have to have a study of about 50 or 60 people to get the drug, right, and 50 or 60 people that don't get the drug, and then you just see who does better. And if there's good statistical significance on the study, you start using it, right? Or it doesn't work. The challenge is those drugs are serious drugs. Now, azithromycin is just an antibiotic. It's not, but it's an antibiotic we use for bronchitis usually. So that's to treat if someone gets a secondary infection in their lungs, like they get first the COVID-19, but they also get some other bacterial infection, and it could help. So a lot of these things are in play. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about steroids because steroids, prednisone, decrease inflammation. Right. I had one doctor contact me recently and feels that everybody should get put on 20 milligrams a day who's got the disease of prednisone so that they immediately for a month just take it. Now, prednisone messes up your stomach and it can affect your adrenal gland and can do all sorts of other things. So if you're doing well, you will get over it in 5 to 7 days and then you're immune. And if you are getting sicker, you go into the hospital and they start trying these drugs on you. That's basically what's going on.
We got some questions on social media, so I just want to kind of ask you a couple questions. Who's your favorite rapper?
I guess Dre is my favorite rapper historically.
Dr. Dre?
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah, I knew Josh Green was for Chronic. Green and Chronic. I knew it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, LG.
I met the Green actually, and I bought a T-shirt from them because so I got a shirt that says the Green. It's kind of crazy, but they're not rappers, but they're reggae and they're cool. And I met them at the airport one time, which was awesome. Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor, better breakfast meat, Spam or Vienna sausage?
I'm a sausage guy overall.
Vienna sausage.
So yeah, Becky
too.
Me too.
What beer do you prefer, Kona Longboard or Bikini Blonde?
I only drink whiskey.
Oh
wow.
Yeah. That's my Lieutenant Governor right there. Okay, so when are we taking Zoom shots?
Oh my God.
After 5, yes.
After 5, okay, after 5.
When society opens back up, Lieutenant or Governor Josh Green, what's the first place you're going to go eat out at?
First place I'm going to go eat at? I think I'll go Little Village. I love Little Village. And
Chinese
those are my
food.
buddies. Yeah. I'm 1/4 Chinese. Based on food consumption. That's all.
Your bachelor party in any city, where would you go?
Any city? Yeah. I'd probably go Vegas. I love Vegas, actually. I like blackjack.
Yes.
Yeah. And
but, that creates a great deal of trouble with my Mormon wife, who is pretty open to anything, I will say, but not, So we gotta be a little careful some days.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead, Becky.
And I know you've been dealing with a lot of stress because this is like such an insane situation and you're talking to everybody. So what are you doing to stress relief? Like what's going on in your life?
I don't think I can share that on the radio.
I tried. I thought maybe like do a puzzle.
No. That does not provide sufficient relaxation or relief.
I think you and Ryan really have a lot of similar activities. Whiskey, Pakalolo. I mean, I know you didn't say it, but
we're both part Chinese. You see?
Ryan and I. See, that's right. I'm changing my name after this for sure.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, man, always appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, man. You've been on the show a couple times, and doing this Zoom session with you has been really cool, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys are great. I really appreciate you, you know.
Thank you. I got to tell you that a lot of people wanted us to tell you thank you. Like a ton of people, all the listeners. So
Yeah, in fact,
Thank
we
you.
asked for questions, and I would say more than questions. People just said, just tell him we love him and he's doing such a great job. And thank you so much for being a voice of reason and truth and love and medicine and accuracy in a time when we need that the most. So, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green, thank you so much.
thank you.
You guys are going to be okay. Take it easy, and I care about you guys.
Oh,
And
Thank you,
thanks.
Josh. Thank you, man. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
We're going to try to set up
Sounds
another
good.
one for a couple weeks from now. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.